Hey everyone, welcome to another Problem With video. Today we're going to be talking about the problem with Spider Gwen. Gwen Stacy Spider-Person, Spider-Woman, Ghost Spider, Symbiote Spider-Woman from another universe, a drummer on the Mary Janes. I think that's all the ones you may or may not know, but I'll get to what I'm talking about in a minute and why she has so many names. Today's episode is brought to you by Shortboxed. It's a great app that you can download and you can use it to get your comic book collection started today. If you go to the community tab, I've got a contest going on. I'll put the link in the description. It's also in the community tab where you can win yourself the first appearance of Rocket Raccoon slabbed and add to your collection. Or you can just download their app and check out the CGC graded comic books for your collection today. So let's kick it off with the actual problem with Spider Gwen. Marvel doesn't know what to do with Spider Gwen. And because of their confusion on how to handle Spider Gwen, it has now been parlayed into the general public thanks to her appearances in the movies. Benny, what do you mean that they're confused as to what to do with Spider Gwen? Well, let's start there. Spider Gwen was originally introduced in around 2015 in the Spider-Verse event. There was a series known as The Edge of the Spider-Verse, and the purpose of this series was to introduce characters that were going to be featured prominently in the Spider-Verse event. The intention behind this was to give us origins, supporting cast, characters, just so you know who we're dealing with. In that event, we were introduced to the character Spider Gwen. So the comic book basically follows the origins of Spider Gwen. In this universe, Spider Gwen is the one bitten by the spider. Peter Parker's bullied, turns into the lizard. She ends up fighting him at a school dance or school assembly. I'm a little unclear because I'm going to work off of this one out of memory, but basically battles the lizard, he turns into Peter Parker, she's accused of the murder. Same thing that happens in the movie. Spider-Woman is now accused of murdering Peter Parker. The story then proceeds to introduce different characters within the universe of Spider Gwen. Now, that portion of our story happens a little bit later. You see, at Edge of Spider-Verse, they just told us the core storyline, the core origin. Then she came into the Spider-Verse and was a hit. Everyone loved the character of Spider Gwen. This character was introduced by Jason Latour, and it was such a popular design because, honestly, that's what Spider Gwen was at this point, very minor origin changes and nothing else, that in 2014, New York Comic Con, it was announced that Spider Gwen would be getting her own solo run of comics. Now, this run of comics is Spider Gwen. This was carried on by the original creator, Jason Latour. It was also drawn by Robbie Rodriguez, and they stayed with the book for its run. And this was also a problematic era for Marvel. Now, during this era, Marvel decided that new number ones were how they were going to sell comic books. So a lot of your fan favorite characters or brand new characters kept getting restarted. Case in point, Spider Gwen number 1 went from February to June 2015. It then rebooted with a new number 1. It then went from October 2015 to July 2018. It then rebooted with a new number 1. October 2018 to July 2019 was the conclusion to the original story. Now, that story follows Spider Gwen in her universe. The storyline follows her trying to battle against the police who think that she killed Peter Parker, and we're also introduced to her universe's versions of different characters. The Punisher is actually just a detective on the police force. Captain America, I don't remember who she is, but she's in that universe. They introduced us to a lot of different characters, and we're kind of expanding upon Spider Gwen's universe. The storyline generally followed the one we've seen in the movie, but in a much longer format. Basically, she was running from the police, the father learns about her, Captain Stacy. He ends up retiring or quitting or something along those lines. She ends up battling against most of her villains. We start establishing everything going on with her. The most interesting thing that came out of that storyline is that she was continually battling against Frank Castle, the detective, but we also discovered that Matt Murdock was the kingpin of her universe. So she got wrapped up with that. And it was just an interesting storyline and it was great. But it ran from 2015 to 2019 and it ended. That was the end of the story. The problem is they kept restarting the story midway through. They kept doing new number 1s, they kept jumping it around, but Jason Latour was writing all of this and wanted to continue telling his story. The initial issues sold like gangbusters, but due to constantly swapping it around, having hiatuses, causing issues, not promoting it, the book eventually got canceled due to lack of sales. But what happened is Spider Gwen, who probably should have gone into obscurity at that point, was humongously popular because of a little-known movie you may have heard about called Into the Spider-Verse. She began to get more and more popular. I honestly believe if that movie didn't come out, she would have been regulated to the background of many comic books and just showing up in Spider-Verse events. Another character who got very similar treatment was Gwenpool. Gwenpool was a fun cover character that got turned into an actual comic book character, but she was so poorly marketed and so poorly put out into the public that people were still confused if she was Gwenpool, like Deadpool, or Gwendolyn Pool, which was her actual name. I got into an argument with a fan about it because I kept calling her Gwenpool, and he was like, no, Pool's her last name. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you think or what you've read. Her name is Gwenpool. People are always going to associate that as being Gwenpool, aka Deadpool. So I'm going to say Gwenpool because that is what people are going to associate her with. The same thing applies to Spider Gwen. Spider Gwen is, no matter what happens, no matter how many times you call her Spider Woman in the movies, or you call her Ghost Spider and whatever the hell else you're putting her in. I have Ghost Spider in Marvel Strike Force. She is referred to as Ghost Spider. She will always be Spider Gwen to us fans who saw her for 3 years on a comic book called, or 4 years, Spider Gwen. Okay, I don't care how many times. Miles Morales Spider-Man will always be Miles Morales Spider-Man because the Ultimate Universe decided to call him Miles Morales Spider-Man. You can call him Kid Arachnid. You can call him Spin. You can call him, is another one he's gotten. They have tried so many times to redub. Just call him Spider-Man Miles Morales or Spider-Man, or just stop. Just stop. It's so bad. Whose idea was it to call him Spin? And if you're wondering, what the heck are you talking about, Benny? There is a show, Spidey and His Amazing Friends, a kid's show that is on Disney+. Spider Gwen, I think she's called Ghost Spider in that series, decides to call him Spider Spin, and Spin is what stuck because they constantly don't want him called Spider-Man because Spider-Man is Peter Parker. We go all the way back to one of our first The Problem with videos on my argument of calling X-23 Laura Kinney Wolverine. Stop giving them the same names and then trying to change. Anyway, we're going back to a different argument. I got a whole video on that. And I think that still holds up. And if I'm wrong, tell me. Anyway, back to Spider Gwen. Following the original run by Jason Latour, which did very, very well at the beginning, and due to the constant poor marketing, not letting the public know that she existed, keeping her out of the main universe and such like that, Marvel decided, okay, well, she's popular and into the Spider-Verse, so how can we fix this? We've created a character that exists in her own universe in its entirety, which is what we wanted at the beginning, but because of that, she can't get references or mentions inside of the Spider-Man book. We can't have her easily crossing over. We can't market this properly because it doesn't tie into all of our crazy events we're trying to get you to buy. I mean, think about this. Whenever Marvel needs to bolster the sales of smaller comics, they normally promote them in a giant event. Let's look at King in Black. How many superheroes who had no business fighting a symbiote fought against a symbiote in the King in Black event? You know why? They wanted to bolster sales. And you know what works? Doing that. Case in point, King in Black, Daredevil got a symbiote suit. You know who wasn't reading Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil until that event? Me. You know who then bought all 36 issues of Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil and then did a video series here on YouTube? Me. So it does work, but when Spider Gwen is in her universe, we can't have them cross over that easily. Now, I do know the particular event I'm talking about, King in Black, Spider Gwen did kind of cross over, but we'll get to that. Anyway, following her original storyline and the inability to make her crossover with any significant event between 2015 and 2019, for all of you keyboard warriors who are going to give me dates down there, they decided to go and do a pseudo reboot. Now, this meant kicking off Jason Latour, or maybe he left of his own free will. I don't know, but his story was over is what it comes down to. So they attempted to restart her with volume 3 through 5. These are written by Shannon McGuire. I apologize. I probably butchered that name. And Fang is here to tell you all about Spider... Okay. I know you're squirming. Okay, I'll put you back. Okay. What they proceeded to do with Spider Gwen was rewrite her almost in its entirety. So Jason Latour's run ended. This guy took over, and he had to figure out a way to tell the story of Spider Gwen. He was left in a weird situation because Spider Gwen's story kind of ended. And her powers were no longer spider-based. That was one of the things they were trying to change. For those of you who don't know, in the comic books, Spider Gwen doesn't have any inherent spider powers anymore. Unless it was changed in one of the more recent runs that I didn't read. But she has a symbiote. She's basically the Venom of her universe. Remember how I said she's called Venom sometimes? It's because she's the Venom of her universe. That's literally what she is. Which honestly, I think is much better with her power set because it does kind of separate her a little more. It kind of lets her work into the Agent Venom Eddie Brock era as opposed to just being another Spider person. So anyway, without knowing what to do with Spider Gwen, Marvel just knew they needed to continually have Spider Gwen, which is where the problems came in because a lot of okay storylines came out. She came back under the name Spider Gwen Ghost Spider. And I remember complaining very much about this because we were like, where did the Ghost Spider name even come from? It just literally came out of nowhere and Dan and I were waiting for it to come through. And I don't remember the exact reasoning, but basically I believe following Spider-Geddon, she got stuck in the multiverse. So they turned her into like, oh, she's the one that will go through the multiverse and meet other Spider people while working on some overall goal. Like that's what she was working towards. It just felt pointless. It felt like Marvel was like, okay, so the main run didn't really work. Jason Latour has left. We need to just give her something to do. Let's just throw her through the multiverse and use her as an analog to meet other people. Because in the movie, she went through the multiverse, so let's do that again. That eventually led to her first major crossover because this fixed one of Marvel's problems. How do you get someone from Earth 65 to Earth 616 and not just make it feel shoehorned in? You know what you do? You shoehorn it in. You make it so that she only travels through different dimensions, so why wouldn't she arrive at Earth 616 when the King in Black event is happening? Basically, it's like a 3-issue miniseries. Mary Jane from her universe gets the Carnage symbiote. She arrives in our universe or her universe. Carnage realizes that her Venom symbiote isn't the proper Venom symbiote, so he makes the Carnage symbiote attached to the Mary Jane of her universe. And what we basically end up with is Gwenom versus Carnage, who's Mary Jane. And it was actually pretty cool because Mary Jane's using like guitars and stuff, and I actually really enjoyed the fight. But it goes back to they didn't know what they were doing. It was just an excuse to get her to fight Carnage of her universe, who they turned into Mary Jane. You know, like literally King in Black was like, oh, you're not from our universe. I can't do anything to you. So you will fight in the Thunderdome, Mad Max Fury Dome style. It was just so weird. But following that, Marvel knew even less what to do with Spider Gwen. She kind of went around weird. She showed up in the mainline universe like I'm trying to escape my universe. So now I'm going to live in the 616 universe, and that'll give me an excuse to interact with Peter Parker and all of them. And since Peter Parker is a professor at a university, he was at this time, he'll get me into the university, and then we'll meet each other occasionally. But my new villain is going to be the Jackal, who, yes, he's supposed to be dead, but what if he's not? I don't remember the rationale why he was alive again. I don't even think they explained it. I think he was just another clone. I think they were just like, hey, the guy that killed Gwen, he cloned himself again. It was just dumb. It was dumb. She couldn't go home to Earth 65. She was stuck on Earth 616. And I'm not even blaming the writer because this 100% feels like Marvel was like, put her in the main universe. We want her to interact with everyone. We don't know what to do with her. And make sure you keep calling her Ghost Spider, but you can also call her Spider Woman. Just don't call her Spider Gwen. But we're going to put Spider Gwen on the cover of the comic. What? That eventually led to where we are now. I think the last adventure she went on, she got into the multiverse again. But this time it was into the Gwenverse where she met other Gwens. And I think the Wolverine one was the only cool one. Like all the other ones were kind of dumb. Although there was a whole series of jokes. The Thor version of her was commenting that the Thor version had the best butt. And then there was a whole argument over which Gwen had the best butt. I mean, as a guy, I kind of enjoyed that argument. I thought it was funny. But anyway, I think the Wolverine one was the coolest design and the coolest character to come out of that event. But the point I'm making is they haven't known what to do with her since the original run ended, since Jason Latour left. He gave her a whole storyline that took away her powers. She battled against Frank Castle. Her dad found her identity. She got Venom. It was a great storyline, and he did a great job of building her up to be a separate character. Only for Marvel to just drop the ball repeatedly, but feel like they insist on having a Spider-Gwen storyline because she's popular in the movies. Which leads us to the point of me having this video and having a fun discussion about it. If you go on the internet, people don't know who Spider-Gwen is. That's the basis of this discussion. Now, I've said multiple times, if you go back to my Death of Kamala Khan, I've said, comic books are art. Movies are art. Art is subjective. You can take whatever meaning you want out of anything, and that's what it means to you. Okay? I'm clarifying that right now. So what I'm about to go into now is my opinion on a situation, but it doesn't change your takeaway from a situation. A very popular trope in comic books and movies is the I have a second identity allegory. I wear a mask and my secret identity is my other version. A popular discussion in this is who is the real person, Batman or Bruce Wayne? Which one of those is the mask? It's been a trope in comic books since like the 1940s that there's a second identity behind characters. Now you can take this as meaning I have a second life. You can take this as meaning you're hiding coming out as LGBTQ, or you could take it as a trans allegory, which is what I'm getting to today. People don't know who Spider Gwen is thanks to Marvel not promoting her. There's a popular theory running around on the Twitterverse right now that Spider Gwen is trans within the movie. Now, I wholeheartedly do not believe that is the case because they are basing these off of characters that already exist. Spider Gwen has been around since 2014. At no point has Spider Gwen been trans. On top of that, I wholeheartedly believe that if they decided to make Spider Gwen trans in this movie, you would know. It would not be a backdoor secret message they're trying to get out to you. I believe wholeheartedly they would have at some point have said that because you're not going to do something like that and not go for the headlines. I disagree with corporations trying to take a stance on this entire political spectrum. But when they do it, they make headlines trying to do it. Good or bad, they make headlines. So if they were going to do this, you would know definitively. Now, people have also said that Spider Gwen is a trans allegory. Now, you can take that as that. That's 100% allowed. I'm not taking that away. But masks on superheroes can apply to a number of allegories. It's the biggest trope in the world of superheroes, to have a second identity. This one's got my friends and my family and the true me, but here's the superhero that the world really knows. I believe part of this argument is coming out of people just not knowing who Spider Gwen is. People don't question if Robert Pattinson Batman is secretly gay. People don't question if Miles Morales is secretly gay. There's no question about a change in sexuality in well-known and well-established characters. And a character like Spider Gwen, who's been around since her introduction in 2014, should be well-established, and there should be, this is the true basis of the character and what we're basing it on. There shouldn't be an argument. Even Spider-Woman, who has changed almost down to her core in Across the Spider-Verse, people know who she's supposed to be, and there's reference points. So what I'm getting at is, regardless of your takeaway, regardless of how you are reading the artwork, and regardless of the allegory that you take from it, and I do mean you're allowed to take whatever you want. I have an entire video about what Flash Thompson as Venom means to me. What the Agent Venom means to me as an ex-soldier and a person who's on disability from the Army, what Agent Venom means to me. And I can tell you right now, that's me. That's my takeaway from Agent Venom. And I can guarantee you very few people take away the same thing that I do from Agent Venom. You're allowed to take away whatever you want from a movie portrayal of a character. Movies are art. It's all art, and art is subjective. But I do think part of this problem is there is no core basis. People don't know who Spider Gwen is. She's one of my favorite variant spider people, and I've been following her since 2014. I've got a statue of her in the other room. It's from Sideshow Collectibles. It's pretty cool. I like it in my collection. But the point I'm making is people don't know. That's on Marvel. Marvel should not be changing her name constantly, throwing her into random events that don't pertain to her, not promoting her. I've never understood why Marvel doesn't put out the Amazing Spider-Man book, and every 4 pages, they just have a full-page spread ad for another Spider book. Like, it seems like the easiest way. Like, why didn't they do that in Batman? Batman's got like 5 different books in Batman 5. Like, don't take away story pages. Just add a full-page ad for another comic. Hey, are you liking Batman? Go check out Red Hood. Hey, are you liking Peter Parker's Spider-Man? Did you know Spider Gwen from that popular movie has a storyline? Go check it out. They never seem to promote those things. They don't even promote the Miles book. Like, you would think that in the Amazing Spider-Man book, which is selling gangbusters, regardless of the backlash it's getting right now, there would be full-blown pages, not for the movie, but for the Miles comic. Hey, did you pick this up thinking you were going to read a Miles comic book because you're a younger kid who knows Spider-Man as Miles? Hey, check out the Miles book. It's over here. Hey, did you go see that latest movie and you enjoy Spider Gwen? Check out the Spider Gwen storyline. She's meeting a bunch of other Gwens. This one thinks her butt looks great. Why is there no ad for this stuff? We're finally in an era where DC is putting promotions for their comic books in their movies. If you've seen the latest Flash ad, they're finally promoting the Flash comic books. Let's bridge that last gap. Let's bridge it. You can't tell me increasing comic books traditionally have 21 to 24 pages. You mean to tell me that you can't increase that to 27, pay a little extra money, have a full page spread for 3 different other comic books in the comic book? It would annoy me, I agree, but I would accept that annoyance just to get people to know who these characters are. Because it's frustrating as a fan to see people debating things like, is Spider Gwen a trans allegory, but not based on your opinions or your subjective art, but based on people going, I don't know who Spider Gwen is. That's what gets on my nerves, because and it's not the people who don't know who Spider Gwen is, because it's not on them. It's on Marvel for not telling them, for not getting these people out there, to get these superheroes out there, to tell you their stories and stuff like that. But that's the problem with Spider Gwen. People just don't know who she is. And it's on the fault of Marvel for not even promoting the original run. Still one of my favorite comic book runs. If you don't know, I'm a fan of comic books that start and end. Like, I like an ending to my story. Even if a character comes back with a new writer, I consider the story wrapped up. Scott Snyder, Batman, one of my favorite runs. Chip Zdarsky, Daredevil, one of my favorite runs. And it comes to Chip Zdarsky, Daredevil just ended, but it has an ending regardless of who's picking up the storyline. And Spider Gwen, go check it out. The original Spider Gwen storyline you can get as a Spider Gwen Master Collection, I think. I'll give you a link down below to our Amazon link for the book. There is a Spider Gwen omnibus kind of a thing, and it's all of the originals, and it's like issues 0 through 35. I definitely recommend checking it out. That's the basis of the character that is in the movie. But what do you guys think? Do you think that I'm just crazy and didn't see all the promotion for Spider Gwen? Do you think that Spider Gwen is well established and everyone knew who she is? Or do you think that this debacle of Spider Gwen, Spider Woman, Ghost Spider is part of the issue of people just not knowing who she is? And when you base your argument over lack of knowledge, which I have done in the past, before somebody calls me out, I have done it in the past. But when you base your argument on the lack of knowledge, you just look dumb. But when you base your argument on your subjective opinion on art, you look intelligent. If you don't remember, when Benny was 18, Benny was a pretentious art student. Anyway, that's a story for another day. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and I will see you next time right here at The Problem With.